lost hiker. Rizal, an avid hiker seeking solitude and adventure, found the mountain trails calling to him, promising peace and a break from his hectic life. He had always found comfort in the wilderness, the serene beauty of nature, a perfect escape from the noise of the city. Setting out early one morning, the sun cast a golden glow over the dense forest. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of pine and earth. Rizal's spirits were high as he began his journey, his steps light and his mind clear. As he trekked deeper into the woods, Rizal felt a sense of calm wash over him. The sounds of chirping birds and rustling leaves were a welcome change from the constant hum of the city. He took in the sights and sounds, appreciating the simple beauty of nature. But as the day wore on, something felt off. The path seemed unfamiliar, and Rizal found himself deeper in the forest than he had planned. He checked his map and compass, but the landmarks didn't match up. Doubt began to creep in, but he shook it off, confident in his navigation skills. He continued walking, but the further he went, the more disoriented he became. The once clear trail had disappeared, replaced by a dense thicket of trees. The forest, which had felt so inviting in the morning, now seemed to close in around him. As the sun began to set, the forest grew darker, and an uneasy feeling settled in Rizal's gut. He quickened his pace, hoping to find a way out before nightfall. Shadows lengthened, and the temperature dropped, a chill creeping into the air. I should have reached the campsite by now, he muttered to himself. Panic began to set in as he realized he was lost. The once welcoming forest now felt oppressive, the shadows hiding unseen dangers. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig set his nerves on edge. Determined to find his way back, Rizal pressed on, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. The beam of light flickered, casting eerie shadows on the trees. He kept moving, the silence of the forest pressing down on him. But the deeper he went, the more disoriented he became. The trees seemed to close in around him, every path leading him further into the unknown. He called out, but his voice was swallowed by the vast, empty forest. After hours of walking, Rizal stumbled upon a small clearing. He paused to catch his breath, the eerie silence weighing heavily on him. He sat down, trying to calm his racing heart, his mind whirling with thoughts of how to find his way back. Suddenly, a sweet, overwhelming fragrance filled the air. Rizal recognized it as the scent of frangipani flowers. It was unusual to smell such a strong fragrance in the middle of the forest, especially at night. His curiosity piqued. Rizal followed the scent, which seemed to lead him deeper into the forest. As he ventured further, the temperature dropped abruptly. His breath came out in visible puffs, the air around him growing colder with each step. This isn't right, he thought, but something compelled him to keep going. The forest grew denser, the trees looming large and menacing in the dim light of his flashlight. As he moved deeper, the scent of frangipani was replaced by a pungent, rotting odor. Rizal gagged covering his nose with his sleeve. His mind raced with stories he had heard about the Pontianak, a vengeful spirit said to haunt these woods. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he saw her. A woman in white, standing silently among the trees, her long hair flowing and eyes glowing with an eerie light. Rizal froze, his heart pounding. The woman began to move towards him, her steps silent but purposeful. Her beauty was otherworldly, but there was something terrifyingly unnatural about her. He stumbled back, his mind screaming at him to run, but his feet felt rooted to the ground. The temperature plummeted even further, and he could see frost forming on the leaves around him. "Ini tempat aku, tinggalkan tempat aku," she snarled, her voice dripping with malice. Rizal turned to run, but the forest seemed to close in around him, every path leading him back to the Pontianak. Her laughter, cold and haunting, echoed through the trees. Exhausted and terrified, Rizal collapsed, his breath coming in ragged gasps. The Pontianak moved closer, her presence overwhelming. Her laughter grew louder, filling his mind with dread. Just as she reached out to him, everything went black. When Rizal awoke, it was dawn. The first light of day was breaking through the trees. He was lying in the same clearing, but the terrifying apparition was gone. Weak and disoriented, he managed to find his way back to the main trail, and eventually back to his campsite. His friends were relieved, but also deeply worried when they saw his condition. Rizal told them everything, but they found it hard to believe. However, the fear in his eyes was undeniable. Rizal thought the nightmare was over, but when he returned home, strange things began to happen. Every night, he would hear faint, eerie laughter, and the sweet smell of frangipani would fill his room. Objects would move on their own, and shadows seemed to flicker in the corners of his vision. Desperate, he sought advice from his elders. They listened intently and advised him to seek out a bomoh, a Malay shaman, who could help him. Rizal followed their advice and sought the help of a bomoh. The bomoh listened to his story and nodded gravely. He instructed Rizal to make offerings to appease the Pontianak, chicken eggs and a roasted chicken to be left in the forest where he had encountered her. Rizal followed the bomoh's instructions to the letter. He and the shaman went back to the forest, carrying the offerings. They placed them in the clearing and performed a ritual, asking for the Pontianak's forgiveness and peace. After the ritual, Rizal felt a sense of calm he hadn't experienced in weeks. The strange occurrences at home ceased, and he finally enjoyed a few nights of restful sleep. One evening, as Rizal was returning home, a sense of dread began to creep over him. He felt cold sweat forming on his forehead, and his hands were clammy. He hesitated at his front door, the memory of the Pontianak still fresh in his mind. Gathering his courage, he shakily fumbled with his keys. His hands trembled as he tried to fit the key into the lock, the metal jangling in the silence of the night. Finally, with a deep breath, he pushed the door open. As he stepped inside, a pungent, rotting odor hit him, stronger than ever. And then, From the dark recesses of his home, he heard it, the cold, haunting laughter of the Pontianak. Never walk the forest alone at night. You will never know what lurks in the darkness, waiting